even if it put money again, before we take the thing all the finance of government.
Yo, welcome to Simply Bitcoin Live. We are your #1 source for the peaceful Bitcoin revolution. We cover the news, the culture, the fails, memetic warfare, all of it. Today we have a very special show lined up. We're going to talk about what the implications are of, the recent move by the US Treasury sanctioning an open source tool. But today's news was Russia and Iran were signaling that they were going to use Bitcoin to facilitate overseas trade. And we have the perfect guest to talk about that. We have Regulatory Jason. He works at Bitcoin Policy Institute. We had David Zell. He's one of the founders on the show before. So how you doing, Jason? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm doing great. Really excited about the different topics we're going to talk about.
Yeah, it's going to be a great show. And of course, the legendary Optimus Fields. How you doing, Opti?
What's up, Nico? I am doing good. Feel good. Apparently lost track of what day it is, but we're here. And yeah, guys, I'm excited for this one. I love hearing Nico's take, and we have a great guest for what's going on today. So this is going to be a good one. Of course, in the culture, I'm going to cover Jimmy Song's article that he just dropped. Bitcoin can heal fiat relationships. I think you guys are going to love this one. So let's just get into this one.
Yeah, it's going to be a great show. Let's start it. Number time. Brought to you by NODL. They make some of the best Bitcoin nodes. Run your own version of Bitcoin Core, the Lightning Network, Whirlpool, and Dojo, all from the comfort of your own home. Remember, guys, if you don't run your own Bitcoin node, you're trusting someone else's. And if you're a digital nomad, you have no excuse, because now you could run a NODL through a virtual private server. Visit nodl.eu today. That's right, guys. If you're not running your own Bitcoin node, you're trusting someone else's. That's a big no-no for privacy. Anyways, at the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is at 20,115 sats per dollar, also known as Moscow time. That's funny. 4,971. Block height, 752,035. Reachable Bitcoin nodes, 15,198. A little bit of an uptick. Blocks to the halvening, 87,965 blocks. Halving estimates in April 21st, 2024. Total Lightning network capacity, 4,614. Capacity value, $92 million estimated. Hash rate estimate 208 exahashes. Realized monetary inflation 1.78%. Market capitalization 385 billion US dollars. Bitcoin's still a baby. Anyways, what I wanted to talk about today was some comments that Cynthia Lummis had at the BitBlockBoom Conference over the weekend. She had a fireside chat with Parker Lewis of Unchained Capital. And someone asked her a question that you couldn't hear what the question was, but her response, I think it really meant something. And I think it really revealed who is really hostile towards Bitcoin in the US government. And I'm glad, because we have Regulatory Jason. That's what the Bitcoin Policy Institute is all about, right? And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But first, let's play the video and then we'll talk about it.
The most, in my opinion, now I'm just giving you my opinion, Treasury is the most hostile. Some people point to the SEC as the most hostile. I completely disagree. I think Gary Gensler's much more knowledgeable about this than people give him credit for. And he will say publicly, and has said publicly, Bitcoin is a commodity. And of course, the CFTC, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, is very pro developing the spot market and futures market for these assets. So I think we're good to go at the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. We've got some work to do at the SEC. But the most work is going to be at Treasury. Now, when Janet Yellen became the Treasury Secretary, she was really, I would say, quite hostile. And she has softened her views somewhat, which is encouraging. I suspect that really Gary Gensler has been playing a role in helping soften her views. But she seems to be very close to Elizabeth Warren, and that's a struggle for us. That, I think, is our most rigid opponent. And so we're going to be struggling there. But I think we're making a little bit of progress, maybe not specifically with Senator Warren, but with people that are still in her orbit. It's going to be a heavy lift, especially on the banking committee, which I'm on, because Elizabeth Warren's on banking. So our work with Treasury is going to be to, try to keep their mitts.
So, regulatory Jason, you're part of keeping the mitts away from Treasury, away from Bitcoin. I'm sure you know a little bit more than we do. What's going on and what's behind? Of course, we have our suspicions. We're going to cover that during the news. But what's behind this hostility from the US Treasury, in your opinion?
One thing, and show me the incentives, and I'll show you. I think that in Washington D.C. that is, what's somebody's end game? They had, what are they trying to maybe? And I think what you heard is,
Jason, your audio is cutting in and out. Unfortunately.
Sorry, can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, no, it's still a little bit choppy, unfortunately.
Sorry.
Anyways, so while we figure that out, dude, look, so now it's going to get a little bit Nico Jones opti-ish. Look, why would the Treasury be hostile? I mean, in my opinion, right? I think Bitcoin fundamentally challenges one of the most potent weapons in the U.S. government's arsenal to influence overseas politics, right? Which is the weaponization of the U.S. dollar, and they use that through sanction policy to try to implement regime change overseas, right? So I mean, I think it's a no-brainer why Janet Yellen would be against Bitcoin. Now, Elizabeth Warren, that's a whole other topic that I don't want to cover today. I want to cover specifically the U.S. Treasury. But I mean, look, this is part of the separation of money and state, right? Like, this is what it's all about, right? They're not going to just give over the keys lightly. And now the big question that I have for you guys is, do you believe that current U.S. sanction policy could it work with Bitcoin, this open monetary network? That's a big question, right? Remember what happened when when the United States pulled out of Afghanistan. One of the first things that they did was cut it off from the global financial system. They've done that. The U.S. government's done that to Cuba. The U.S. government's done that to Iran. The U.S. government's done that to Russia. The U.S. government's done that to North Korea. And because the world uses the dollar as the global reserve currency, the dollar is used to facilitate trade worldwide, even if it's not the United States involved in the transaction, right? Even if it's just two foreign countries and, they're trying to close a deal, what tends to happen is that they use the dollar. It looks like Jason's back.
Hi, can you hear me?
You're still a little choppy, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can
you
hear me? Is this better?
It's coming in and out, unfortunately. Anyways, Opti, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this, brother?
Well, I vividly remember this moment at BitBlockBoom, and I absolutely love this take by Senator Lummis. It made me You know me. I'm just the resident tinfoil hat wearer. So like, I just fundamentally start from the position that if you're in government, I just don't trust you. And you know, I know that Gensler like should know better. He did teach you know, Bitcoin and blockchain courses at MIT, and you're the one that incepted the idea in my head that like Gensler's not a friend of Bitcoin, but we know for sure that Janet Yellen does not like Bitcoin nor Bitcoiners, considering that we turned her into one of the greatest memes. So it just, you know, it's only fitting that she would be this aggressive towards Bitcoin because, like, you know, when you get dunked on and people make fun of you, like she's a running meme. So, like, of course she's going to have some kind of emotional connection with dunking on Bitcoiners. But, you know, as Senator Lummis said, Gensler is not as nefarious as we may think as Bitcoiners. Of course, we come from the position that, you know, don't trust any politician. First and foremost is kind of like where I start from. But I do love to see Senator Lummis dunking on Janet Yellen and Elizabeth Warren, because like we do it all the time, and to see a senator do it, it's heartwarming. And just to answer your question, Nico, we're going to cover it in the news, but yeah, we know sanctions don't work in Bitcoin. Like, you can't ban Bitcoin. You can only ban yourself from Bitcoin. So, you know, I'm just interested to see where this is all going to play out. Like, we're on the front lines. Bitcoiners still unaffected. You just like stay humble, stack sats, put your Bitcoin into cold storage. This is why we tell you guys these, you know, this is why we tell you the Bitcoin cliches, is because if you do it correctly, you are unaffected, and we know that Bitcoin isn't going to get regulated by the SEC. We know that Bitcoin is different than all the shit coins, so it is what it is. But I'm very interested. Hopefully we can get Jason in here with the right connection, and because I'd love to hear his take, because like I said, you know, I am the one that just like, I used to tune it out completely, and now I'm starting to lean into it. So,
Hello.
Interesting.
Hey, Jason, why don't you try going audio only, and I think that might make it a little bit better. There we go. Anyways, let's, Jason, what are your takes on Janet Yellen and her comments at BitBlockBoom? Let me try that again. Jason, could you hear us? All right, looks like Jason's having some issues.
F in the chat. F in the chat.
Man. Let's move on to the news. We got some interesting news today. Let's check it out. Daily news. Brought to you by CryptoCloaks.com. They make some of the best 3D printed Bitcoin merch, from node cases to key rings to the vents on the back of your ASIC for air management, and of course, the famous 3D printed Bitcoin grenade toy, which comes in any custom color your heart desires. You want it in gold, they make it in gold. And you can take advantage of the promo code down below to get 5% off CryptoCloaks.com. All right, guys, this is the Simply Bitcoin Live. So usually the stuff when we did a pre-recorded show, I'd be able to cut out all the mistakes, all the connection issues, all the audio issues. But because this is live, we have to roll with it. But don't worry. Some crazy news today. Let's check this out. This article by Bitcoin Magazine. This is a big deal, and I'm going to tie it up with the Cynthia Lummis video that we played for you guys in the beginning. The name of the article for our audio listeners is Iran Greenlights Bitcoin and Crypto Payments for Imports Report. Iran passed an act which enables the use of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency payments for imports through a comprehensive legal framework, per a report from legal news outlet Tasnim. Iranian Minister of Industry, Mine and Trade, Reza Fatemi, revealed that the recently passed law defines regulations on cryptocurrencies addressing supply concerns for fuel and electricity costs for mining, and provides authorization for the administration to use cryptocurrencies. The minister reiterated the authorization was an agreement between the Ministry of Industry and the central bank, arguably suggesting a multi-department consensus on the viability of Bitcoin as of, here's the signal out of this entire article. I'm going to read it again. Arguably suggesting a multi-departmental consensus on the viability of Bitcoin as a means for international payments. Fatemi also noted that local businesses will also be able to import vehicles by using Bitcoin instead of the US dollar or the euro. Tassimi highlighted the move comes on the heels of an August 9th announcement by the head of Iran's trade promotion organization saying the country registered its first import order processed with cryptocurrency. The order was reportedly valued over 10 million US dollars. Now, on the heels of this announcement, very quickly, Russia also made something signaling that they're going to do the same. There's a quote by a Russian minister. He says, "We need to intensely develop innovative areas, including the adoption of digital assets." Check this out. This is a safe alternative for all parties that can guarantee uninterrupted payment for the supply of goods from abroad and for export. Now, it's interesting. Why would the Iranian government and the Russian government be signaling that they want to use an alternative means of payment? Well, here is the sanctions, programs, and country information from the treasury.gov website, right? The same treasury that Cynthia Lummis was talking about. I'm going to tie it in. Bear with me, guys. And if you look at their sanction list, Iran sanctions from 2021 and sanctions from 2022, right? So obviously, if the US government sanctions a policy and the US dollar is the global reserve currency, meaning it's usually used to facilitate trade, that gives the US government a tremendous amount of leverage to dictate what country can and what country cannot use the US dollar. Now, before Bitcoin, there was no other good alternatives until Bitcoin. And then, right, this becomes incredibly obvious why they're going to try to use Bitcoin and shitcoins, but we all know it's really Bitcoin, to try to facilitate international trade, basically using that to circumvent US sanctions. Now it starts to kind of make sense why the Treasury would be hostile towards Bitcoin in the first place. And then tie this in, guys. I know you didn't forget about this. The privacy tool sanctions. Before I get that, I want to read what the definition of a sanction is. It says economic sanctions are commercial and financial penalties applied by one or more countries, check this out, guys, against a targeted self-governing state, group, or individual. Does it say technology there? It doesn't say technology. It says group, individual, or country. But as we saw August 8th, US Treasury sanction of policy tools places sweeping restrictions on all Americans. How is adding Tornado Cash to the SDN list different from past OFAC sanctions? A smart contract is a robot, not a person. It is a software that resides on the Ethereum blockchain. If a contract is credibly decentralized, then the original authors of that contract could be hit by a bus and the service would continue to work. As such, today's action does not seem so much a sanction against a person or entity with agency. It appears instead to be the sanctioning of a tool that is neutral in character and that could be put to good or bad uses like any other technology. It is not any specific bad actor who is being sanctioned, but instead it is all Americans who may wish to use this automated tool in order to protect their own privacy while transacting online, who are having their liberty curtailed without the benefit of any due process. Sanctioning a tool that is not an alias of any person meriting sanction is substantially different from typical usage of the SDN list. It is a ban on a technology and not a sanction against a person. And now, why would the US Treasury want to ban a technology? And remember, if they could, don't be distracted by the shitcoinery, because at the end of the day, Tornado Cash was an open source project of which the developer was arrested. It's almost as if the US Treasury is trying to set a precedent on whether they can and cannot sanction open source software. And why would they want to do that in the first place? Well, it's becoming incredibly obvious because countries are using the technology to circumvent US sanction policy. Obviously, Iran, Russia, and this is just the beginning. So this goes back to one of my original points, and I'm an American, and I love this country. I love what it represents. But we really have to ask ourselves, is current US sanction policy, which gets to dictate what country, what populations can and cannot use US dollars, or better said, can and cannot transact with the U.S. economy, with the U.S. financial system. Is that type of system compatible with Bitcoin's open monetary network? And that's really, really good question to ask. And that's a question that we all have to really ask ourselves. Because this is just the first inning. I suspect this will continue to escalate. And remember what the Treasury has been trying to do. They've been trying to implement the old system on top of Bitcoin. Remember, the Office of Foreign Asset Control was behind Marapool and Marathon censoring Bitcoin blocks. We know that doesn't work, right? But we also know that the Office of Foreign Asset Control was also behind sanctioning this open source software that was facilitating privacy, but for everybody. So, man, it's incredibly obvious that this is going to be a contentious issue in the next couple of years. Let's see if Regulatory Jason is back. Could you hear us, Jason?
I can hear you great. Can you hear me?
Awesome. Perfectly.
All right.
Yes. You're coming in great.
All right. I'm dedicated
so,
to
Jason,
your show. I ran to my neighbor.
Thanks, man. It actually, I think if you turn off your video, I think your audio is coming in a little bit better. Let's try that.
How's that? Is that good?
Opti,
Sounds
what
better
do you
to
think?
me. Sounds better to me.
Awesome. Okay, so Jason, what we were talking about is making the case to everybody that the recent news from they're green lighting Bitcoin and shitcoin payments for imports, and then Russia basically signaling that they're going to do the same and the reason that they're doing that is because they're trying to circumvent current U.S. sanction policy. And the case that I was trying to make is, I think, a hard question for policymakers, right? And this goes up your alley, right? You guys do your bit, right? Is that a discussion that's being had, or are people in the government doubling down on their ability to control money?
Thanks, Nico. I think that what you're seeing is what consequence Bitcoin establishes, which is control that any one government currency. There's a reason, right? Kicked out of China and the mining facilities there.
Jason, unfortunately, your audio is still coming in a little choppy. You're coming in and out, unfortunately.
We can bring them into the Twitter Spaces. Come into the Twitter Spaces.
Try coming into the Twitter Spaces after the show, and then we can continue on from there. Unfortunately.
All right.
Well, thank you for coming on, Jason. We appreciate it.
Simply Bitcoin Live. Simply Bitcoin Live.
Simply Bitcoin Live. Anyways, Opti, back to us, I guess. Dude, this is fucking crazy. And I think we actually anticipated this just based on the game theory.
Yeah, man. I mean, I say it all the time. You can't ban Bitcoin. You can only ban yourself from Bitcoin, and this is inevitable. And like I said on Twitter when we dropped this news, when we did the breaking news tweet, it's like it's happening. .gif. I don't know how long Bitcoiners have been saying that it's only a matter of time until countries that are on the sanction list realize that Bitcoin is the solution to this. It's like I've said it before, and I am an American, so don't call me anti-American or whatever, but like, who gave America the role of global police? It's because we have the money printer. It's because everyone is reliant on our debt to continue to facilitate what they're doing in their countries. And so again, I am the resident skeptical Bitcoiner on the show. Nico does the news, the bullish signal, and I'm just like the pleb that's like, oh man, I don't trust all these people. I got my tinfoil hat on. But there was a lot of talk on Twitter in regards to this tweet when we put it out that like, it's not really sure what Russia means by digital assets, but I doubled down. It's like, guys, we know that Bitcoin is the only truly decentralized coin. So if they really are going to double down on this narrative of trying to route around sanctions, then we know that they're going to be using Bitcoin. And so we do know that, you know, BRICS and the BRICS nations are talking about creating their own SWIFT system, their own CBDC type coin. So, you know, I think it's only a matter of time until we see exactly which route they go, whether this is, you know, what's it saying? Like whether this is them just talking hot air or whether they are actually trying to do what the narrative is. But we know that the only coin that can do this for them, if this is what they really want to do to minimize the global police that is the United States and the US dollar, furthermore, is to use Bitcoin. Bitcoin can't be stopped. You know, there will always be someone that will take your Bitcoin if you give them a high enough fee. Like miners will put the transactions into the blockchain as long as they are paid for that process. And so, but furthermore, we do know, like Nico is saying, that the powers that be, the central bankers and the cronies, and look, this is my opinion, like I fundamentally believe that the central bankers and their cronies, you know, the bureaucrats, the government officials, like they know what Bitcoin can do to their power. And this is why they fight Bitcoin. This is why they FUD Bitcoin. This is why they must stop the escape hatch that is Bitcoin. And so someone did mention in the Twitter thread that this will be used to, like, we will be all called Russian assets. And I just jokingly doubled down. It's like we went from illiterate psychopath or financially illiterate psychopaths to Russian assets in less than 1 year. So guys, you know where this narrative is going to go. You know how they're going to spin this PR. So it's upon us to double down even further and be like, look, this is a feature, not a bug. No one should be in control of the money, and everyone should be allowed to transact freely, whether you like them or not. You know, Bitcoin is for enemies. I don't have to like you for you to use Bitcoin. This is a feature, not a bug. We now have a money that cannot be controlled by any small group of people. And look, say what you want about certain people, but I fundamentally believe that, hey, you should be able to transact freely. It's back to that quote that's been attributed to Voltaire in regards to speech. It's like, I may not like what you say, but I will fight for your death to say it. And we double down as Bitcoiners, hey, I may not like you or your politics, but you should be able to use money without being canceled and shut off and starved from the system. We are all humans. We are all trying to make our way in this world. And Bitcoin allows this, whether you agree with you know, the politics here or whatever, or you agree with it. Do you Bitcoin will let you. What's up?
Do you blame these countries?
No.
Right? Do you blame these countries for trying to find,
not at all,
you know, an alternative? Right?
I think it's their right. Like, not their right. I think it's purely incentives. Like, they have to do this for their people. They have to do this for their businesses. It's just what we say all the time. Bitcoin incentives stay winning.
And another thing, right? Like, I think we were all promised with these sanctions that they would, you know, the problem with Russia is the same thing, right? Regime change, right? Like, that's what we were promised is regime change. That's why these sanctions are important. And look at the situation that Europe is currently finding itself in. We covered this yesterday where they sanctioned Russia, and Russia was providing 25% of the natural gas to Europe, and the European energy prices are now going parabolic. So it's like, did the sanctions help the people of Europe? No, it made them poorer, and they might freeze this winter, right? What has been the net benefit of U.S. sanction policy to Americans?
Absolutely nothing.
I don't know. I think that we were sold something that isn't true, and I think the European examples is a great example. So, and unfortunately, we wanted to talk to Jason about that because the Bitcoin Policy Institute, it's in the front line, them and Coin Center, and we wanted to talk about, hey, are you having the discussions of, look, trying to, because you have to understand where governments are right now. They're in the bargaining phase where they're just like, okay, we could make Bitcoin into an extension of the old system. And that's exactly what they're trying to do, right? With the OFAC policy, now OFAC is sanctioning open source software. So are we having those discussions where you're trying to say, you know what, we can make Bitcoin into that? Or are we trying to have the actual real discussion that needs to happen, which is, guys, I don't think US sanction policy is compatible with Bitcoin and the way that Bitcoin works. It's an open network, meaning it's the money of enemies. Anybody could use it. So that's the real question that should be had with policymakers. It's not about, oh, we can make Bitcoin into extension with all the controls, all the gatekeeping, an extension of the current system. And we actually need to ask them, what is the benefit to the American people of these sanctions? Name them. It definitely benefits DC. It definitely benefits the bureaucrats of DC. But the reality is that it hurts the people of these countries the most. It doesn't hurt their governments because that's what we're sold. But it hurts the people in those countries the most. So is Bitcoin compatible with this? My opinion is no. And I think that's the real discussion that we should have. And the other discussion is, should the US government be dictating what peoples are allowed to use money and what peoples are not allowed to use money? I don't think anybody deserves that type of power. So you're seeing two completely opposing systems, one of bureaucracy, control, this kind of top-down approach, and then you're seeing Bitcoin, and they're on a freaking collision path. And that's why Cynthia Lummis, in the beginning of the video, when we played it for you guys, said that the Treasury is hostile. No shit. Why wouldn't they be hostile? This takes away a very powerful tool from them. And this is just the beginning. We're at inning number 1. They just announced that they're going to use Bitcoin to facilitate trade. And then this leads me to the other kind of eventuality that I reached in my head about last week, right? Is that if your shitcoin isn't decentralized, then it will inevitably be captured by government because they're going to want to try to remain in control. And the only one that could resist that is Bitcoin because of its decentralization. But because of its decentralization, who's to say that in a couple years, now that Iran and Russia are openly saying we are using Bitcoin to facilitate trade, how long until the US government, or the US Treasury better said, does the same thing that it did with Tornado Cash, and it says, hey, we must sanction Bitcoin's open source software, and you can only download specific wallets from the App Store, and you can only download specific software that is OFAC compliant. How long until that happens? So I think that that's exactly where this is going. It's obvious. Look, I showed you guys the definition of the Wikipedia article. It doesn't say technology, it doesn't say tool there. It says specifically self-governing state, group, or individual. Are they going to change the definition of this just like they changed the definition of inflation, just like they changed the definition of recession? Anyways, I think this is where this is going. I'm sorry, guys. This was a live show. I was really looking forward to Jason and going back and forth about this discussion. Hopefully we can get him back with a better connection, or we can get back David Zell and we can have that discussion for you guys. But anyways, Opti, what are your thoughts, brother?
I mean, I think you said it. This is way more of your forte, but I mean, it's very obvious that sanctions don't work. Furthermore, the sanctions only really hurt the poor people of those countries. The high level elites, quote unquote, they can, they're working outside of the system anyways, and so like it doesn't really matter to them. And furthermore, it's like I'm just doubling down on the ideas. Like, I am an American. I love America. I love where I live and where I'm currently living. But like, who gave the U.S. the power to be the global police and tell other countries what to do and how to live correctly? I fundamentally believe one truth. Like, I don't know the best way for you to live your life. I only know the best way for me to live my life. And I think that should extend out to our country. And like I say, I say it almost every single day. Like, you can't ban Bitcoin. You can only ban yourself from Bitcoin. The Bitcoin incentives just stay winning. And there will always be someone that will take your Bitcoin if you have, the right fee. Like, Bitcoin, in my opinion, is fungible. UTXO is a UTXO. You can say there's taint all you want, but hey, send me your UTXOs. I don't care. It's all good to me. It's all Bitcoin. Fundamentally doesn't matter. But furthermore, to what you're saying, I think we are going to see the U.S. government, U.S. Treasury, what have you, what institution is definitely going to double down on this and try to extend this down and like the Tornado Cash stuff, extend this to Bitcoin, which means furthermore, you guys, like, run Bitcoin Core, use your nodes, continue if possible, if you have a website, upload the software, Bitcoin Core software if you can, build the tools so that we can route around this stuff, because we know that the powers that be are getting more tyrannical. They have to double down on authoritarianism to maintain control, because we say it all the time. If Bitcoin is doing what we know it to be doing, and it will do it, we are playing for all the marbles, guys. The fiat world will collapse eventually. Do we know when? No, but they can't kick the can down the road any longer. It can only go for so long. And furthermore, we have the solution. It is Bitcoin. Uncensorable, censorship-resistant money, 21 million hard cap. Like, these are the problems in the world. We have a global police that's trying to stop people from transacting freely, and you can't debase our currency. So fundamentally, we're killing two birds with one stone. We're taking away their power to create perpetual wars, and we're allowing human freedom and the free market to innovate and create products that will continue to make our lives better. We just double down on this stuff, guys. Like, Bitcoin is the way. Bitcoin is freedom. You can't ban Bitcoin. You can only ban yourself from freely transacting. Have fun playing stupid games. You're going to win stupid prizes.
Exactly. This is the separation of money and state. This is what it's about. These little things, you think they're meaningless, you think they're noise, but once you start tying it up to the bigger picture, holy cap, it's not a coincidence, guys, that 2 weeks before Iran and Russia announced that they're using Bitcoin to potentially facilitate international transactions, the Treasury coincidentally sanctioned open source software. And it's not a coincidence at the same time that Cynthia Lummis at BitBlockBoom, coincidentally, she said the Treasury is the most hostile. That's not a coincidence, guys. That's freaking signal. This is the separation of money and state. Take self-custody, and because you take self-custody, you'll be able to watch in the sidelines with some popcorn. Anyways, let's check out the culture, shall we?
Daily Culture.
Brought to you by SwanBitcoin.com. Swan is the best way to build your Bitcoin stack with automated Bitcoin savings plans and instant purchases, serving clients of any size from $10 to $10 million. Swan incentivizes self-custody, and they also incentivize dollar cost averaging. Spread out that risk. Visit SwanBitcoin.com today. All right. Guys, check out Pacific Bitcoin. It's going to be the largest Bitcoin conference on the West Coast, November 10th through 11th, Los Angeles, California. Speaker list includes Corey Clipston, Alex Epstein, Dylan LeClaire, Jeff Booth, Pierre Richard, Mark Moss, Alex Gladstein, Dr. Jeff Ross, and that's right, Nico's on there. You can take advantage of the promo code SIMPLY to get a discount to your tickets to Pacific Bitcoin.
I love it. Well, guys, I know you guys think me and Nico plan all this stuff, but I really think that this article is going to touch on what we are talking about on the news section. I know it doesn't have to do with sanctions, but it does have to do with the relationship that fiat has between individuals and their government. So for those that aren't on the YouTube, I'm covering Jimmy Song's article that he just released on Bitcoin Magazine, and it's called Fiat Infects Relationships with High Time Preference. So I am going to read a little bit of this stuff, guys, because I think there's a lot of signal in here. And like I told you guys, my sister watches this show, and I really want her to get some of this signal. I hope she's watching this because, the people still in my family think that I'm a crazy Bitcoiner. But anyways, this is why we do what we do. So here, I'm going to go in. Jimmy Song starts this article with, our relationships have an unwelcome intruder, and that's the government. This is what we're telling you guys in the news section about who gave the government, the unleashed power to control everyone's actions, and it's because they have the money printer. Bitcoin fixes this. So let's get into this article. A society is a network of relationships between people, and most relationships have an authority in the middle and thus have a centralized controller. When it comes to justice or common, a third party can figure out something in the midst of conflict is desirable, but centralization is a problem when it restricts the freedom of how people want to relate, especially when there's no conflict. This is literally what we just said in the news, just rewritten in a different way. I don't need to argue here the importance of human relationships for a good and happy life. It's a given, but relationships are in many ways the things that make life interesting and worth living. The relationship network is civilization, and as we say all the time, fiat infects everything. Fiat is a cancer, and it does affect the way that you interact with the people around you in your life. So unfortunately, our relationships have been debased. Just like your money has been debased, your relationships have also been debased. The quality of all relationships have been made much worse by the presence of fiat money. We all instinctively feel this. I know you feel this. I know you feel like you are trapped in the rat race, and furthermore, that you just have superficial relationships with everyone around you. And this is why relationships seem especially shallow, and there's a high time preference feel to them. Why do first impressions matter so much? Why it's so difficult to connect with anyone on a deep level? Do people not even desire to have deep relationships? These are the questions that Jimmy Song is answering in this article. So we're going to start with high time preference relationships. And for those people that get confused with high time preference, low time preference, like what are you talking about? High time preference just means short-term thinking and needing something quickly. So why save and plan for the future when the very money that we use is debased constantly? Government promises various forms of safety nets for the long term, so why not live for the present? Fiat money changes the incentives from long-term planning to short-term fun. I know I personally have been that person before Bitcoin, and now since Bitcoin, I can finally think for my future, think about planning for my future, and it's just, it feels good, guys. I say it all the time. Find Bitcoin Zen, and this is what I mean. You can build on a strong foundation and live your life. So as a result, relationships are not built with a long-term view. Working relationships, friendships, and even family relationships are entered in with a very short-term focus. In a fiat economy, people expect relationships to provide for the here and now. Sadly, a short-term focus incentivizes exploitation. Oh man, I can't wait till we get to the government part, and it will tap into what we started in the news. If you're not in a relationship for the long term, why not burn bridges for your own benefit? Further, short-term nature of relationships make them shallow. People are more concerned with getting access or making life convenient than they are with character, loyalty, or reliability. And this is one of my favorite aspects of being a Bitcoiner and my Bitcoin friends, is the friends that I have high character, high loyalty, or high reliability. I said it in a tweet today on Twitter, is like, yo, can you look around at your friends and ask whether they can watch your back in this information war? I know I can. I hope you can ask yourself these same questions. Your relationship is only as good as your last interaction. If it wasn't fun or interesting or feel good in some way, it's likely to end. Say some harsh truth and you're likely to no longer have a relationship. I know I've been there. I say the crazy thing and then you get ghosted. Doesn't feel good, but people with high integrity, Bitcoiners, are different, built different. In a fiat system, people have a higher time preference, and high time preference people are not very disciplined. Many people end up burning relationships on a regular basis because the investment in that relationship wasn't much to begin with. And this is especially true with people that don't need anything from you. So here we go. I think this is one of the most important parts of Bitcoin Twitter about your reputation, as I call it, building your verified Bitcoin network. It's that fiat reduces the need for reputation. Reputation used to be critical to making money. Having a bad reputation was a quick path to ruin. Fiat money changed that. Instead of being subject to market forces of supply and demand, rent seekers need only to please the money printer. The only relationship that needs to be maintained is with whoever pays the salary. Seekers will do the minimum they can to meet requirements. We say this every single day in regards to government. This is why the sanctions don't work, is because the elite only have to kiss the ring to the money printer. Except for us, the average individual, we got to build our reputation and then we get shit on. It's absolutely insane. Clown world confirmed. But contrast this with a market transaction or a free market money like Bitcoin. People that are seeking your business or service are much more likely to self-monitor and invest in the relationship. They have a much longer time horizon because they are motivated by profit and not just by satisfaction a boss. Fiat jobs have essentially made long-term consumer relationships almost unnecessary. Fiat has permeated other relationships and, like most fiat things, has infected and debased them like cancer. Fiat infection is an employer employee relationships because the government regulates the relationship through employment laws. The government is a third party in the relationship, and they add a lot of friction. And if employers and employees creatively figuring out what would work for them, the government tells you what to do. There's little innovation or competition because these aspects are the same everywhere. You are an individual. Your relationship should be subjective and individualized. We are not robots and automatons. Humans are not fungible. You can't just treat someone the same way that you treat someone else. This is a feature, not a bug. This is why companies feel so cold and impersonable. This is why you feel like you're stuck in the rat race. Why you feel in the matrix is because they are treating you like a robot that can be treated the same as everyone else. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure that we treat people differently, not in a bad way. It's just you have certain interactions with people. You have certain jokes with people. You know certain people are different and you treat them differently. Even entrepreneurs are not exempt from government intervention as their relationships with their customers are regulated because politics overtakes everything. Relationships that have money at the center are not the only relationships affected by fiat money because politics is everywhere. Politics makes it unwelcome entry into even personal relationships. The price of getting to the money printer is such a big incentive that everyone fights over the right thing to do in their own group's benefit. Rent seeking is a lot easier than serving the needs of the market, so political action takes on an enormous importance. The political arguments have also become morally charged. Every argument for money ends up being a moral argument. The bigger your victim status, the bigger moral claim you have to the newly printed money. Look at what just happened last week on student loan forgiveness and every other government policy. You are the biggest victim here. We are going to give you more money because of your victim status. And this just literally is taking from someone and giving to another. They are stealing from the productive class to give to the unproductive class. It's infecting every relationship at its core. Relationships are now tinged with that victimhood status and only become monetarily. People within your group create an echo chamber where saying something politically in opposition to that group is liable to get you ostracized. What did we just cover in the news about sanctions? Literally, wrong think, you get cut off from the monetary system. You got to follow the big stick or else you're going to get hit. Every relationship because of fiat money feels shallow because they are. It is all status games. You cannot make money in a fiat economy without climbing the status ladder. Unlike a market economy where innovation, creativity, and goods and services make you money, in a fiat economy, having the right opinions, having the right political skills, and having the ability to make a first impression are what get you into the money printer door. This is reflected in the relationships we have. People are seeking your vote or support within your in-group so they can climb the status ladder. No longer is it based on merit. No longer is it based on being a good human. It's just who you know. As the saying goes, your network is your net worth. Well, the Cantillon effect is literally how close are you to the money printer, and this is how far you will go up in the ladder. Contrast this to market economies where goods and services matter much more. The goods and services ultimately make the impression, not the political abilities of the person selling them. You can't just burn bridges in a Bitcoin standard without it costing you money. In a free market, your relationships cost you if you mess them up. Your reputation means something. And of course, this also goes into your friendships. You know, and I love this point right here because I see it all the time. I'm not on Facebook anymore, but I do see this, or I did see this on social media. One of the saddest things I see over the years is the proliferation of multi-level marketing type schemes. People are seeing friendships as a resource to make money off and are perfectly happy to exploit them for that purpose. The result, a lot of burned bridges and relationships that shatter because of the attempt of rent seeking. And of course, we jump into authority subject relationships, which I brought in with the government. The oddity of democracy is that at least nominally, the authorities need the consent of the government. Consent of the governed is a good thing, but unfortunately, when fiat money enters the equation, we get deceitful governance. We see this literally every single day. This is why we do the show. We are now constantly being propagandized. If they can get our vote through deception, rhetoric, and propaganda, even while isolating 49% of the population, they will. The truth is not fun to swallow, so the incentive is to lie and deceive. And that is not a great foundation for a relationship. Our politicians are out here lying to your face and then telling you that you are wrong. They are gaslighting you so hard. This relationships out here, you can't build a good relationship in the fiat world because they are all shallow. I know you feel this. I know I have a bunch of Bitcoin friends that literally don't like hanging out with their normie friends because of this very reason. They just think it's shallow. There's no substance to it. But Bitcoin fixes this. The incentives of Bitcoin are very different from fiat money. What I've seen is that the high time preference people will show themselves. We see you, quote unquote, Bitcoin maxis that turn into scammers. You can name names. I don't have to go down there. You already know what I'm talking about. But the people that have stayed are many, and they're not liable to go away easily because there's simply more character and loyalty in this group. Bitcoin is different and changes the incentives in relationships. We care more deeply about the long term because we have savings and can plan for that. Relationships matter, and weeding out the bad ones is just as important as keeping the good ones. Bitcoiners instinctively know this from the many affinity scamming outcorners in our space. The relationships that last are self-selecting. It's a beautiful system of how relationships ought to be. Let's make relationships deep again, guys. Beautiful article. I really highly recommend you read the whole thing. I definitely skipped over a few stuff because we are running a little late, but I fundamentally believe this. Like, I have fundamentally built my life around these relationships. I had a meme at Bitcoin conference in Miami. I was there with like 5 or 6 of my Bitcoin friends, and it was funny because we've all met from Twitter. You know, we met on Telegram, and we looked at each other and we're like, dude, like, you guys know that we're stuck with each other for life. And we all agreed. It's like, yes, duh. Like, we are in this for the long run. We understand that, like we say it all the time, you know, proof of work is much more than about mining. It's a way of life. And your reputation means something. This is why so many quote unquote Bitcoin maximalists get freaking wrecked after a while, because they build this reputation and then they rug pull you and they do something shady and then they try to walk it back. It's like, no. Your reputation takes a long time to build, and you can ruin that overnight. This is a feature, not a bug. Be a lot more conscious about what you are doing out there. Stop fucking people over. Provide value to people. The golden rule, guys. Remember in kindergarten, the golden rule: treat others as if you want, or what's the treat others as if you want to be treated.
How you want to be treated. How you want to be treated.
It's like, guys, what is going on out there? We are living in a world of shit where you are incentivized to be deceitful. You are incentivized to lie. But Bitcoin is bringing back the golden rule. Provide value, and you will be rewarded. Put in the work, you know, put in the effort, and life will treat you better. Think for the long term. Anyways, Nico, I think I ranted long enough.
Amen. Man, you were very thorough with that article for sure. Dude, look, I could only speak for myself, right? I have a really hard time relating to my fiat friends because we are so out of sync. And I think Bitcoin really wakes you up to those, you know, to that reality. I do believe that Bitcoin, you don't change Bitcoin, Bitcoin changes you. And look at how we all get along with other Bitcoiners, and look at how desynced you are with regular relationships. Now, is it because we have a lot of things in common with other Bitcoiners? I wouldn't say so. You know, there's a lot of, you know, socialist Bitcoiners that we try to bring on the show, Progressive Case for Bitcoin, that we might not fundamentally agree on a ideological level, but because Bitcoin is this common ground, right? So yeah, man, I think Jimmy Song absolutely killed it in that freaking article. Holy crap. Dude, Opti, at the end of the article, there was 10 bullet points. Do you mind reading them?
Okay, yeah, I didn't want to add too much thought. You keep telling me that I'm reading too much, and I need to not add. So I tried to minimal it down to the meat,
people.
Yes,
the people come for you, Opti, not the article.
Okay, I know. I'm doing my best here. Anyways, here I got it shared up here. And here we go, guys. This is, I literally, when I was reading this morning, I looked at my room and I'm like, yo, Jimmy's song just dunking on people. So 10 reasons you're lonely. Meeting your I forget what it is. It's massive multi-online role-playing game friends in real life just wasn't as interesting as you thought it'd be. Zoom calls sadly don't satisfy your need to warm human contact. You think changing your Tinder profile is improving yourself. You insist on watching part 15 of an anime series when people come over. Eating takeout at the office to make partner status has been a bigger priority than dates. You keep telling your life story to anyone that shows even minimal listening skills. You only meet people at political rallies. You insist on having only friends that envy your success. It's hard to bring dates over to your parents' basement, and you're not happy unless you're miserable. Freaking dunked on. Just dunked on so hard, man. It's honestly, guys, I couldn't endorse this article anymore. You know, I've been on this message of like spreading the good word of Bitcoin, being a shining example of what it means to be a Bitcoiner, and you know, bringing back the idea of friendships, of building a family, of building a community. This is what Bitcoiners always talk about, is because I know you have the friends out there. They're shallow. Your conversations are only so deep. You try to get deep and they're like, yo, what are you talking about? Like, shut up. Like, say a joke with me. And you're like, dude, like, can we talk about some substance here for a little bit? This is what Bitcoin will bring back, guys. I fundamentally believe it's happened for me. If it can happen for me, it can happen for anyone. I like with Nico, for instance, we met on Bitcoin and now we're on the mission and we're going to create something beautiful because we both have this idea of, Leo, we are putting in the work to build something long-term so that we can provide value for you guys out there. This is what Bitcoin allows, guys. Trust the process, provide the value, and you will be rewarded in Bitcoin. I fundamentally believe this.
Boom, boom, boom. All right, guys. Let's go to the favorite part of the show, the meme review. Daily meme review.
Brought to you by Citadel 21. It's the best Bitcoin cultural zine. It's stories, articles, comics by actual Bitcoiners. This is the artwork for volume 11. This is the artwork for volume 10. And this is the artwork for volume 2. Volume 2 is almost sold out because there's only 1,000 physical copies made per volume. So get your prints of Citadel 21 today before they run out.
Boom.
All right, guys. We are here for the meme review, your favorite aspect of the meme review. Of course, put your meme review score in the chat after. As Nika always says, if tweets are the bullet, memes are the artillery in the meme warfare, guys. This is an information war. And you are fighting it on the front lines, whether you know it or not. This is your position and this is your role. Anyways, continuing on yesterday's theme of EU wrecking themselves in energy policy, we got Spente over here. Shouts out to Spente at Bitcoin Crusader. And he goes, 2019, I support Greta. And it's got the old guy with the smiling face, the painful smile. And then 2022, why is my gas so expensive? The people out there still don't fundamentally understand why they are being wrecked in energy prices, why the government is doubling down on more government control, is because they aren't paying attention. And that's how the game is played out. What did I just cover in the culture? This is the game. Your relationships to information and truth it's just on the surface. Bitcoin fixes this. Anyways, another one's by Zuby Music. Say what you want about Zuby. I added this one because Nico always calls me the in-house conspiracy theorist or the in-house truther. And so it's a little girl talking to her mom. He goes, Mom, what's a conspiracy theorist? And the mother goes, somebody who figures out the truth before most people, my dear. Bars. And here, guys, this guy at Ego Drive, he's not even a Bitcoiner, but this meme right here hits so hard that I think more people need to understand this. So I'm going to read it. You guys need to understand how this works. Dad, why do people give up freedom for security? And the dad goes, it's called the Hegelian dialectic, sweetie. They create a problem. The problem creates a reaction. If there's enough fear and hysteria, people will not only accept the solution that limits their rights, but they will actually beg for it. You need to instill this process into your brain, and you can start understanding how the propaganda works, how the powers that be are literally manufacturing dissent, and you will understand their playbook. This is literally the playbook, the Hegelian dialectic, guys. You need to study this a little more. Next one is we dropped this article. Of course, the UN wants a CBDC. It's Agenda 23 endgame. Prosperity for all is what the UN claims, while ironically making it a mission to curb Bitcoin adoption in developing countries that need it most. And it's me and Nico going back and forth with Boom. But the meme is by Rave Elevator, and he's a play on the Matrix, the lady in the red dress, and it's Jerome Powell talking, and it goes, "Are you paying attention, Neo, or are you staring at the woman in the red dress?" Whew, guys, I hope you are paying attention. Are you watching closely, Anon? And the next one, shouts out to RDBTC. He tags us in the memes all the time, so we get the first look at it. But stack sats and stay humble. Hashtag Bitcoin 2022. Ha ha ha. I can't believe you're still buying Bitcoin. You must be mad. Chad, I know. And then 2024, the tone flips. They're mad at us. Oh my God, I can't believe you bought Bitcoin so cheap. You were so lucky. I know. Chad, I know. Look, guys, I've said this before. Do not let people call you lucky. You've put in the work. You put in the time. You've earned this. Do not let anyone tell you that you've got lucky. It takes hard work to get here. You need to put in the effort. You need to put in the time. Hodling isn't easy. Don't let anyone try to tell you otherwise. And this next one, shout out Adder Gigi. This is a play on the, the cardboard guy holding up a sign, and it goes, "Sats are the standard," which spells out sats, and it's the guy just sats everywhere, and it's quoting, going parabolic. Unit bias in Bitcoin is real. Devs do something. We've done it. It's sats. Push sats, guys. I think in sats. And you guys were all talking about Vitalik's boner yesterday. So the future of finance, a picture of Vitalik with a boner. And then the crypto community, shitcoin community says, let's create a token. And if you can see right here, the price jumped 48% in the last hour when this screenshot was created. I think this is a culmination of what it means to be a shitcoiner. They just do stupid games, win stupid prizes, and then they come and they call us old heads over here, old tech, and it's like, guys, you are not creating anything of value. This whole show today is talking about providing value, providing substance, and understanding that the fiat system incentivizes stupid behavior like this. It's very superficial. It's all about being close to the money printer, and in shitcoin land, it is no different. It's all about being close to the pre-mine shitcoin holder. Anyways, we've gone long today. Today's meme review score is this BitBlockBoom koozie holder.
Boom.
So guys, put in your score while Nico does his score so that we can cover
I'm going to give it
scores.
upside down Gillette deodorant stick. Boom. Boom. Anyways, guys, while you guys rate the memes, I'm going to tell you guys about Simply Bitcoin's Telegram group. You could join it by t.me/the Simply Bitcoin channel. That's where you could link us Bitcoin memes to review, so we could review them on the meme review. And of course, check out Simply Bitcoin's blog, Simply Bitcoin Unfiltered. To go to it, you need to go to simplybitcoin.news. That will take you there. It's literally free, and it's basically the written version of this show. Loco already gave a meme score. He gives it a wet plunger. Mr. Robot, a 1 ball of Willow Smith pit. And of course, Bitcoin Becca, I give these memes my half-drank shower beer vacation mode. You're drinking beer in the shower? Anyways,
Dude, you've never drank a beer in the shower? Come on, Nico.
The shower water doesn't get in there?
You don't... I'll talk to you after.
I give them a strand of Trump's orange hair. All right. Very good scores. Guys, you can also comment if you missed the live version, but I think we have an open source software release today. Let's check it out. Bitcoin software release. Brought to you by CipherSafe. Don't be that person that stores their Bitcoin seed on paper. Paper is prone to water damage, fire damage, dog attacks, everything. Your seed can be eaten by dogs or cats or animals if you store it on paper. You definitely want to store your seed on steel, and there's no better place to do it than the CipherSafe. Get yourself a Cipher wheel or a Cipher grid today. Visit ciphersafe.io.
All right, guys. for today's software release. We got LND version 0.15.1, and as you can see, it added zero conf channels. I don't know how to say this. SCID aliases, switches to using taproot addresses. Oh man, let's go! And an optional database migration that can potentially reclaim gigabytes of disk space for old and large LND nodes. So it's like that's a big release right there for LND. Let's go. Anyways, guys. If you like what we're doing, listen to the audio on Apple, on Spotify, on Anchor FM. And if you really, really love and think we're providing value, stream us some sats on Fountain. We love you guys. Thank you for your time.
Boom.
Anyways, Nico, let's roll this one out.
Yeah, guys, check out our awesome clothing sponsor, Opti. I wear the hoodies every single day. RepresentLTD.com. They're stylish. They're comfy. And you can take advantage of the promo code down below to get 10% off. RepresentLTD.com. Guys, that was our show. The number one thing that you could do... God damn it, yellow. The number one thing that you could do to help Simply Bitcoin spread the word of Satoshi is share the video. That's exactly what YouTube likes. Share it with your normie friends. Try to wake them up. Try to orange pill. Of course, like, subscribe, comment. All of that helps with the mysterious YouTube algorithm. And of course, guys, we will see you tomorrow for a brand new episode of Simply Bitcoin.
Which one's the best crypto asset? Well, Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Okay. What's the second best?